guys, one other thing that I wanted to get to today is something that we talked about on the Press Row show earlier this week, and that was the fact that the Flyers put out, and NHL.com put out the quarter century teams. And the Flyers quarter century teams certainly raised a lot of eyebrows, kind of blew our eyebrows off, to be frank. Mm-hmm. And I gave everybody the homework assignment of let's put together our own teams and let's see if there's any kind of overlap. Now, again, we did intend on this to originally be a live show. We were going to kind of field that in the comments. So, again, if you're watching live, by all means, you can drop them in the comments and argue amongst yourselves. We just won't be able to pull them up here because we are operating in the past and you are in the present. But the Flyers released these teams, and they were certainly some head scratchers. And do you want to give people an idea of what your biggest qualm with the Flyers quarter century
my
were?
biggest,
I'll bring them up here on the screen.
My biggest qualm, I have a few, but my biggest is Ivan Provorov as the second team defenseman. I think they got it right with Desjardins and Timonen at the top. I think those are the two you go
totally
with,
agree.
Right?
Totally
I think
agree.
those two they got right. I'm good with Pronger being on the list, even though he only played 2 and a little bit of a third season with the team. He was that much of a difference maker. He was a captain. I think that there in the last 25 years, I'd be hard pressed to find somebody more valuable to the team in one season than Chris Pronger was to that 2009-2010 Flyers team. And so I'm good with him being there. I don't know how you left Braden Coburn off and put Provorov. Just don't. I don't see it. I could come up with a few defensemen that I would put ahead of Ivan Provorov, including one guy on this show I would put ahead of Ivan Provorov on this list. It befuddles me that guy was put onto this list. It's almost an embarrassment that he was put onto this list.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a playoff war. I mean, you got to have establish yourself in a playoff series for you to get on a list like that. Like everybody else has probably a lot more for their playoff heroics than anything else. But I like Mike Richards and Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter wasn't on it, right?
No, it was not.
No,
he was
Carter
not. I'm sorry. It was Richards, right?
Let me throw both of the teams up on the screen really quick for those who might have somehow missed it.
Well, you can see it at the bottom. You can read it at the bottom.
I'm saying even for the people who are listening in the podcast that won't have the benefit of seeing it. The first team was Desjardins, Gagne, Giroux, Richards, Timonen, Cechmanek. And then the second team, where Ant has the real issue, is Pronger, Briere, Couturier, Voracek, Provorov, and Boucher.
There wasn't another goalie better than Boucher.
There is, and that's my second major issue. It's Steve Mason should be on there instead of Boucher. Mason had 5 solid years here.
Yeah, and I got Wayne Simmons on there ahead of either Mike Richards or Jake Voracek. So
I actually have Simmons on my first team. I would put Simmons on the first team, and I would drop Richards to the second team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why Simmer. I mean, he exemplified exactly what every Flyer was like. I don't know. We spoke this the other day. Danny Briere had a couple of mediocre regular seasons, but he had that great playoff that year. Where he was led the league in points and stuff with the Ville Leno line and stuff. So I get that. Coots, understandably so. He won a Selke Trophy. Voracek had close to 100 points one year. I mean, the problem is it's hard to lock that guy in stone where you say, okay, who is absolutely in stone? And for me, it would be Desjardins and Timonen would be absolutely locked in stone, and Giroux.
Yeah, and I think Gagne too.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I have a different view of Gagne than everybody. Like I remembered him as a great player, like a really good hockey player, but no different than a Mark Recchi. Like he fell in the same stratosphere as Mark Recchi.
But I think Recchi, the best of Recchi was prior to 2000 with the Flyers. His his second time here, he was good, but he wasn't like, oh my God, off the page good, right?
And then if there's no 2010, coin flip, miracle run, who knows what that list would look like, right? Because those guys are essentially on it because there's no playoff runs for those guys. That was it. There's a lot of other guys. You go back to Desjardins, you could say this guy's played tons of hockey in the playoffs in the spring. But some of these guys don't have a whole lot of playoff games to add to their repertoire in terms of playing long series year after year.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're
Listen,
right.
There's
not a great list.
There's another glaring omission, and I get why he's left off just because of the legal troubles. But like Carter Hart probably would have been one of the goalies.
Probably.
We have to be fair. Like now, whether or not he was an absolute stud of a netminder, I don't know. But to me, like I would have put Carter Hart on there over Brian Boucher. And I think that you certainly could make the case that Steve Mason could have been on there over Brian Boucher.
Well, it just shows you the lack of goaltending this team's had for 25 years.
Correct.
I mean, the fact that if you would have came out to me and said, Bundy, we need you to give us the 2 goaltenders for your 25-year team, I don't even know if I would have remembered Czechmonic. That's how bad it is. Like, I mean, I'm like thinking to myself, really? That's what we had at number 1 was Czechmonic.
And intern Andrew suggested Marty Biron.
I remember Czechmonic quitting on us in a Buffalo series. Had a plane ticket home. I mean, really? That's the number 1 quarter century guy? Had a fucking plane ticket home in the first round. There's the F-bomb. I'm going to say it again. He had a fucking plane ticket to go home at the end of the regular season before the playoffs started. We had a real good playoff run that year, I can assure you of it.
So good.
We gave the double Bundy bomb.
Double
that
bomb.
Actually got that deserved.
Yeah, thinking about that more. I tell you what, I can get myself heated in a matter of 5 seconds when I think back of stuff. And I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute. Really? This is what we're fucking doing? Like, this is what we're doing. You know? Does anyone else remember that? I mean, there's guys that called the list, by the way. Don't they not remember the guy had a flight home? He didn't even want to be here. Number 1 goalie, quarter century team. Amen. All right. What's next, Russ?
Well, so, I mean, did you guys come up with, like, do you want to go through who you would have swapped
out?
I mean, I already,
teams? Yeah, I mean, look, I have an honorable mention. And my honorable mention lists are, Forsberg. If you're going to put Pronger, you can consider Forsberg, right? And Roenick, and Primo, and Matt
Primo
Carl.
for sure.
Yeah,
Primo.
I mean, the same.
Primo was my big problem. I actually think that there was a case to be made that Primo could have been on the first team, not even just as.
You can make an argument for Primo, but then who are you taking off?
Off of the first team?
I don't know. You got to be careful what you say here, Russ. Yeah. You know what I would have rather, guys? I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, I'll say this. What they should have done was not pick a wing, center wing. They should have just picked 3 forwards on each team.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you've screwed up your list by doing it this way. They should have just did 3 forwards and 4 defensemen total, which is what they did. But the forwards, I don't like the way the pecking order. The more I look at it and think about it, it's too neat. It's not supposed to be neat. This is just too clean. Like there needs to be more looked into it in terms of the end of the day. I don't know. I guess everybody had to put a team out. So congratulations to everybody who's on it. But there's a lot of guys that were left off it. Keith Primo almost won a Stanley Cup by himself.
Yeah.
Those are big. There's some massive playoff teams, like series that some of these players that are not on the list have gone through that some players on this list haven't. So, that's my only issue with it.
Am I crazy for thinking there was just a lot of recency bias here? And you would expect that Giroux would be on there. You would expect that, and I think that there's maybe a little bit more respect there in the first team, right? Because Gandhi didn't play here particularly recently. We know what Richards was part of, and
there's 12 players. There's 12 players that are on these 2 teams, first and second team. Yeah. Only 3 from the first half of the 25 years. Only 3.
Yeah.
All the rest are the last 15 years, 10, 15 years. Right?
God, I would love, what I love though when you say that, like you take that 2000, I would love to have seen the 2000 team play the 2010 team. Like I would love to have seen how that stuff works itself out.
Yeah, it's night and day. That 2000 team should have won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I know.
I think the 2004 team, had they not had defensive injuries would have won a Stanley Cup or could have won a
Or
Stanley Cup.
trading defensemen away at the deadline.
Well, that was a problem too, right, Bundy?
That didn't help. Yeah.
Help.
Me and Eric,
Right, so-
Eric Weinrich.
Yeah. So like I look at that and I say,
Oh, well.
those teams were much closer to being Stanley Cup caliber than even the team that went to the final in 2010.
Yeah, I totally agree. The 2010 thing was a hockey miracle gifted
great
by
run.
the hockey gods, and they gave the Flyers a run that only went so far, but it was damn close, and it was a lot of fun.
It was
And
fun.
there were
It
some
was a lot
guys
of
on
fun.
that team that developed their name in those playoff series. Because when you look about it after that, there wasn't another run after that for years.
No, I mean, they had
Playoff.
the
There still
one thing in 12 where they beat Pittsburgh in that crazy
Pittsburgh.
series, and then they
Correct.
lost to the Devils, right? But that's it. Other than that, they haven't won. We won,
Yeah.
a,
And I
we won a
actually-
series.
Can we play a hypothetical here? Because at the beginning of the show, we're talking about, if you make it into the playoffs, and the way that they would have to make it into the playoffs this year is they'd have to get really hot goaltending and really strong play in March against very tough teams. How does this team stack up? Like, let's just say hypothetically, they don't make any roster changes, but they do get good goaltending down the stretch. They have a very strong March. How does this team stack up to that 2010 team that went on the Stanley Cup
Not even
final run?
close.
Like, to me, it's not even close, but if your whole idea is you just have to get in, and if you get in, anything can happen.
Well, I mean, I think anything can happen, Ross, because let's imagine they get in, right? Let's say this Flyers team gets in.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing Washington in the first round, is that like you sit there and go, oh, they're going to blow out the Flyers,
No, that's a winnable series.
right? So
Yeah.
like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, you look at it and say that they can win that series, Like, and even Toronto. I mean, you saw how they played against Toronto. I mean, Toronto probably wins the series,
Toronto should win that series. Like,
but
9 out of
it's
10
not a
times,
blow.
but-
I don't think it's a blowout.
Yeah.
No, I don't either. Russ, I'm telling you, they're a little closer than you think. They're a little bit closer than you think than where they are.
Yeah.
Not in terms of winning the cup, but of winning a round. It's not out of the possibility. I'm telling you, the way they're playing and the way they're
Agreeable.
structurally sound.
Mm-hmm.
They need a goalie.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you, Anthony. I'm with you.
That's the
I mean-
problem.
Or they need
And
one of
without
the.
one,
I mean,
you ain't getting.
or they just need to go down to 2 like a normal team, and
It doesn't matter.
Send the AHL. Well, I'm just saying, like, you never know what happens if a goalie can get hot. I
Yeah,
don't think Fedotov is like a dog shit player. I fundamentally disagree with the notion that he can't be an NHL backup. They went into the season believing that Ersson could be a number 1. He's had 3 lower body injuries that have kind of derailed the season. I'm willing to give him a chance again next year to be the number 1. Kolosov belongs in the AHL. Anytime that Kolosov starts between now and the end of the season, barring injury, is a wasted start to me.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back in the AHL very soon.
Okay.
But I think it's just get to the point where I think they're trying to get through January, making sure Ersson doesn't hurt himself again, right? And then I think you might see Kolosov go down there to play.